over there.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Travel Mole broadcast. And this is still focusing on Nova Scotia, that marvellous province in northwest Canada, northeast Canada, I should say. Just shows how good my geography is. And we are delighted to have on the other end of this line today two people that are very instrumental in bringing one of the most famous festivals in the whole of Canada together each year, and that's the Celtic Colours Festival. And I have on the screen with me, hanging, there you go, modern technology. Good afternoon, good morning, Dawn. Good afternoon, good morning, Dave. Both Dawn and Dave have been with Celtic Colours for some time. Dave, you've been involved with the organisation since the 1990s. I'm assuming that it's a bit bigger now than it used to be.
It is. This year we have, 49 concerts and more than 200 community events. I think the first year we had 27 concerts, around that bit, and just maybe a half dozen community events outside of the concerts. So it has certainly, it's always been 9 days, but we certainly have added some concerts and events to the festival over the years, for sure.
And you say you have all these concerts and other events. What sort of is it? Is it a very Canadian type? Is it a Canadian event, or is it an international event?
Well, I mean, we see it as a Cape Breton event because we are on Cape Breton Island, and that's sort of, we see ourselves as Cape Bretoners first, I think, a lot of times.
Fair enough.
So like it's very rooted in the Cape Breton tradition and culture, which includes elements of, Celtic and Gaelic, as well as other elements. But for the sake of this, it's an international festival in the sense that we have artists from around the Celtic world, as we say. So every year we have top names from overseas, international artists that are very well known, mostly in the circles that they are well known in. They're not necessarily household names to the general public, but we have always had people who are very highly regarded in this world of music. So well, we tend to show off our local artists for visitors who come to see them, but we also bring in our international artists for our local audiences. So internationally, it's both artists, and also we've had typically in a typical year we would have ticket buyers from like right across Canada, most of the states, and then 20 to 24 other countries. So it's international scope in both directions.
Dawn, you're the artistic director. What sort of acts do you look for? You say, Dave says it's with a Celtic origin, and one assumes immediately that you're going to have people with kilts playing bagpipes and folk music, but I'm assuming the genre is a little wider than that.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's about representing where they're from and their culture, but being entertaining and great musical collaborators, and just great all-around entertainers and musicians. So it tends to follow that Celtic origin, be it in the UK and other Celtic nations. But as Dave has said, it's about celebrating Cape Breton and Cape Breton artists, and it's not a monoculture that way. So we represent and feature Cape Breton artists, of which have Scottish and Irish ancestry, Acadian and Acadian French. That's a big element of our history here in Canada. And there's some important populations here on the island that produce incredible music and dance and song. And of course, our Indigenous populations. So we have Mi'kmaq artists that are a big part of this festival as well. So, labels, can be tricky as well, but it's about finding the commonalities and the musical traditions and the human stories that we all share, and finding those similarities and that's the beauty of any festival, is that on stage, the way we program is to have multiple artists on stage, multiple acts, sorry, and you can see that thread that connects us all in each performance. So that's kind of the overall quick view of that.
Cool. I noticed from your website you already have dates set for way in the future. Have you got, and how far in advance do you start looking for acts? I mean, are you looking for acts now for 2025 and beyond?
Well, you take it 1 year at a time, and there's a lot that goes into it. I think people can easily assume that this comes together quickly and a few weeks before, but it's a year-long endeavor. And I have ideas, that certainly will hopefully come to fruition for 2024. And I'm not thinking about 2025 yet, although we kind of, as people, situate ourselves around anniversaries. So we didn't, get to celebrate our 25th the way we would have liked. So maybe that's the 30th, and so that's down the road. But there's a lot of hurdles to overcome before then. But because, as any event has, one chance per year to really nail it. When schedules don't work, it's easy to say, okay, well, it's got to be next year. So there's a few of those situations where, the wish list didn't totally occur, or it's put off with the pandemic. That
Sure.
those ideas on the roster for a few years anyway.
Dave, it sounds like a logistical nightmare with so long and so many events going on. Is it everything organised by the Celtic Colours festival organisation, or is it a little bit like sort of like Edinburgh, where there's a fringe event and pubs and clubs and hotels might put their own events on during that period? How does it actually operate? Is it an official calendar, but also, if you like, a fringe?
It's an official calendar of concerts, and then it's in association with schedule of other events. We have an outreach coordinator called Yvette Rogers, who's been on board for a number of years now, and she sort of took the outreach into the community to a whole new level. At some point along the way, first couple of years in, we started doing workshops, and that was an opportunity to allow more communities and community groups to get involved, because there's only so much we can do with concerts. There's only so many venues, and there's so much programming that we can do with that. That's the official. We do concerts. Yvette coordinates hundreds of community groups, and they put on this whole program of community meals, learning opportunities. So that would be our traditional sort of workshops in language and instruments, and playing instruments, building instruments, that sort of thing. There's a visual art component to this, because Cape Breton's beautiful, and there's just no two ways about it. So there's a full visual art thing, but there's also, which includes heritage crafts like spinning and weaving, and more Cape Breton things like rug hooking. And so there's this whole program, and Yvette coordinates it with the community groups. Their agreement with us is that they can be part of our program. We make up a special logo that says in association with Celtic Colours that they can use for their advertising and promotion. We promote their events through our festival guide and through our channels. But they run their own event, basically in coordination with Yvette, and any money they make from their events they keep themselves. So it's it's just a way that we can it meets a demand that people have had, because they come for the music, and then they want to know more. They come with their fiddle, and they want to learn how to play the fiddle a bit, and that sort of thing. So it suits that crowd. It serves that capacity, but it also allows more communities to get involved in the event here on the island. So,
Do you actually appoint people? Do you actually write to them and they get a golden letter saying you're invited to come along and perform at Celtic Colours festival, or do people write in and say, I'd like to do it because I'm pretty good at this and I represent the Dumfries area of Scotland and I've got lots of contacts with Canada?
I like the Willy Wonka approach. Maybe I should get an official golden leafed letter and just send it to folks. That would make me feel great. It's a bit of both. It's, like any event, you want to research and you want to go out to events. I'm a performer myself, much like Dave, and we get to be on the ground performing at various concerts, events, festivals, here, there, and across the pond. So that's the best kind of best way to experience an artist and see how they're going to fit. And as David said, we were putting on concerts in many, many venues, and those venues are all distinct and different from each other. So it has to work for those facilities and those performances as well. But, you might just bump into an artist. I saw a great artist last night that was playing, and you can talk to them, you get a sense of what their life is looking like and the demands on their schedule, and see if it's possible for wait another 13, 14 months. It's good to know what people are doing too. And if in the world today with demands on environmental and travel logistics, if I know they're going to be in the area, that's usually an asset to us as well to incorporate into the program.
Dave, you're the man in charge of communications. Is it the sort of event where you don't really need to sell it? You don't really need to market it. You're just basically communicating people the logistics of the operation, when people should come and when the artists are on, rather than actually promoting the event, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we certainly have a built-in crowd. There are certainly people who are just sitting waiting to find out who's up this year and when can I get my tickets. But it's more than that. This is 27 years now, and we've become pretty well established. As we started out, it was really about a niche, and I think over the years we've sort of become more than a niche. But we still need to do some outreach. We still need to spread the word about the festival. The folks who started coming 27 years ago were, already in their 40s, 50s. So we're always looking for a new audience as well. And plus, it's the way of the world for the last couple of years. Nothing is as it was in the last few years, right? Like in 2019, I think we sold about 93% of tickets available for 49 concerts. So I mean, we were in a good spot, and then we couldn't have anybody here for the next 2 years. And then last year, as we were coming back up to speed, we got hit by a hurricane like 2 weeks before the festival started, which we don't usually get hurricanes here that cause that kind of damage, right? So everything that we thought we were building up, we suddenly had this other obstacle that we had to face, and this other challenge in getting the word out. So, like this year, it feels like we're getting back to more like, where we were a couple of years ago, where it's more about just telling folks who's coming. But at the same time, everybody has lost audiences in the last couple of years due to all of that went on. So the challenge again is to get the word out and to start spreading the word again about what this festival is all about. Maybe we're reminding people a little bit what it's all about at this stage, because it's been a few years. But we still have our work cut out for us to get back to our 95%.
And the dates for this year, it's in a couple of weeks' time, isn't it?
A couple of weeks. Yeah, October 6 to 14.
October 6 to 14. And for those people that are still at a loss for what to do during that period, then it's still possible to get tickets?
Yeah, we have tickets for a number of great shows still, our opening and closing especially, and some other smaller shows through the week. We still have tickets available.
And accommodation in the area, that's plentiful?
Not sure at this point. there is typically some folks book their their accommodations for the following year when they're checking out from the
Sure.
previous year. So you'd have to check around about accommodations for sure. But yes, I'm
Excellent.
sure we can accommodate you. I'm sure we can if you're coming.
Yeah, that was the right answer.
Yeah, there you go.
Dawn, David, thank you very much for your time this morning. I'm hoping it goes particularly well. I would be unbelievably surprised if you got hit by another hurricane, and that you do return indeed to your pre-COVID levels, and in fact that the public experience is richer for that, really, that people appreciate concerts and being out in the open and the beauty of the Cape Breton area. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.